I'm live. Crazy. I am going to try and get, first of all, for everybody to get my PC set up so I can see. I'm hoping that people can hear me. Get the live chat up. I'll just type something to say hi. A little low on the volume. Okay, Mike M, that's always been a problem that I have had. So I've got my computer set up over here, so I'm trying not to watch that. I'm trying to look over here so I don't look like I'm looking away from you guys. But just want to say hi to everybody while we're getting people here in the chat room. Tonight I am drinking True Blonde Ale. This is from a local brewery called Ska Brewery from Durango, Colorado, one of my favorite breweries. So I'm pouring that, and I'm actually pouring that in my Three Rivers Brewery cup. So this is like a battle between Ska and Three Rivers, if some of you aren't familiar with our local breweries up here. But I know Mike Cowlings likes to drink coffee, which I like coffee too, but I am a beer drinker. So somebody once said on one of my videos that you can't drink beer on TV. So I told that person if I ever get syndicated, I'll stop. So there you go. So we got a few people in. Just want to say hi to them as they're coming in. We got Mike M. He's stating that the volume is a little low. I get that. It's something I'm constantly working on, and maybe sometime I'll actually get me some kind of good mic. We got Finn Treasure Hunter in her. Hi, Jason. Nathan Tupis can hear loud and clear. Great. David Kramer, apparently my stalker who knew my birthday. That was kind of interesting. And there's Rambling Pam. Hi, Pam. Good to see you. DeCall Thomas, my good friend from Las Vegas. Dale Richards. Hi. Sledneck, who, man, he's like a step ahead of me on whenever there's a new fin tuber out there. He's like one step ahead of me. So I got to tell you, Sled, maybe you ought to be doing the weekend updates. You're ahead of me. Scott K, you definitely live in the right state for beer. Yeah, we've got some great breweries here in New Mexico, but we've got some crazy laws when it comes to breweries and liquor licenses and those types of things. It makes it a little bit more difficult than like say Colorado, which Colorado has some pretty lenient laws. So anyway, like my video said, that tonight is going to be kind of a live discussion about the subtle hints, and I really want to talk a little bit about how I view, as somewhat of a poem purist, the subtle hints, but also kind of open up to you guys and take some questions, from you and get some input. So just want to let everybody know I've got my copy of the. Well, that's my old copy of The Thrill of the Chase. That's a joke for some of you that know me. But I do have my copy of The Thrill of the Chase here. I also have my copy of Once Upon a While, and also, of course, Too Far to Walk. And I do have my covers. I've just taken them off and put them off to the side. Tonight, I really will be talking specifically stuff from The Thrill of the Chase. That will be the one book that we'll really be discussing. And then also I have some of my notes and stuff here. I tried setting up some moderation. That's not something I could get set up, and I'll be talking with Toby in the future to help get that set up if I continue to do some kind of live chats like this, so that we can keep things on the up and up. And I just have to warn everybody, I am a prior military guy. I've worked in the oil field, and if you've ever been in any one of those industries, you get around some pretty harsh language. So if I let one of them slip, I will apologize in advance to those out there. I don't intend to, but it's possible one or two could slip out tonight. So what I really want to, and there's Iron Will. I want to say hi to Iron. Eugene Tells, which is Gay Delkin. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I see he's in here as well. And Michael Bruno, he said, "What's up, Flip?" Doing good. So anyways, what I really want to start off with tonight is I'm just going to go through some of the, what I see as, or what I have found as most of the times that Forrest Fenn has talked about, the subtle hints, or he calls them the hints. In The Thrill of the Chase, we know he says right in the book on page 133, I believe it is, and if you don't have your book, if you're not familiar with this or don't have the book, I'll read it directly from the book, but it's on page 133, which is directly opposite of the poem itself. Hi, why must I go? I see you come in there. And this is what he says directly after the poem. He said, there are also other subtle clues sprinkled in the stories. Now, it seems like he's really referred to them as hints now, and not really clues. But the definition between what a hint and what a clue is they're very close. And I don't have it right off the top of my head. Maybe one of you could post it in the chat. But the definitions between a hint and clue are very, very similar. And I keep looking at me when I should be looking at the camera. So please, if I'm looking off over here, it's just because I'm not used to this. So I'm going to go over just a few of the mentions that Forrest has talked about the hints, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with these, but some of these you may not be familiar with them. And at the end of this, if I do actually publish this live video, I'll provide the links to what I'm talking about. It might take me till tomorrow to get that done, but I will try and get that posted in there. Remember, I still got the weekend update to do tonight too after this, so I'm prepared for that, but that'll take a couple hours. It'll probably come out sometime around midnight. So to talk about, I'm going to go over each one of these mentions from Forrest. And the first one comes from CBC Radio, and it was dated March 4th of 2013. And Forrest says, the clues are in the poem, and my book has hints that will help a person with the clues. The book won't take you to the treasure chest, but the book will help you with the clues that are in the poem. Okay? So he specifically says that the book alone won't take you to the treasure, but the hints in the book will help you with the clues. And I'll talk more about my interpretation of help, and we'll get into that. And now next is from the Richard Eades Show in May 29th of 2015. Forrest says in that interview, there are hints in my book that will help you with the clues, but a clue will point you towards the treasure chest, and a hint will just help you with the clues, if you can understand that. And that's the million-dollar question, if you can understand that. And we'll talk more about that. Now, going to the infamous New Zealand radio interview where we really have proof that he says the first clue is beginning where warm waters halt. Forrest Fenn also says, in my book, there are several hints that won't take you to the treasure chest, but they will help you with the clues that are in the poem. Again, that word help. We keep seeing him repeating that the hints will help you with the clues. And then lastly, in a report from Santa Fe with Lorena Mills dated 5/13 of 2011, this is, again, one of his first real televised interviews. And this is just a subset of this, and I'll go more into the full one because I think it's important to talk about. But in there, he says, you can find the chest with just the clues, but there are hints in the book that will help you with the clues. Again, that word help. And so it leads me to believe that what does he really mean by help? I mean, how do the hints really help? And I think that's something that a lot of us really don't know. We really can't prove one way or the other how does a clue help us. But there's a couple of things Forrest Fenn has said, and he's called it what he calls his best advice. And a lot of people have asked me about that. What is Forrest Fenn's best advice? And he says his best advice here, and a lot of people have asked me about that. So I'm gonna read verbatim what Forrest Fenn says. And in the first one, he says, and I don't have the actual link where this came from. I'll find it and I'll put it in the thing, but I didn't write it down here. But the first time he said, yeah, I have some advice. Read the book and then study the poem over and over. Read it over and over. Maybe even memorize it. And then go back and read the book again, looking for hints that are in the book that are going to help you with the clues that are in the poem. That's the best advice I can give. And then he says, you have to find out, and he pauses, you have to learn where the first clue is. They get progressively easier after you discover where the first clue is. And I'm just going to pause for a second because something that's interesting to me is he says you have to learn where the first clue is. They get progressively easier after you discover where the first clue is. And I've said it for many times that I don't believe that the first clue is begin at where warm waters halt. I believe the first clue is where. So he says, and if he's already told us where the first clue is, it's obviously in the poem, and he says it's begin at where warm waters halt. We obviously know where the first clue is in the poem. I mean, that's pretty obvious. So to me, the answer to the first clue should be the where or that starting point. And I know that's probably very elementary to all of you watching this because you're obviously avid searchers and dedicated searchers. So I don't think I need to explain that much further. Now, in the Lorena Mills interview, and this is again, I think the one from 2011, towards the end of the interview, when Lorena asked him what's some of the best advice that he can give new searchers, and I'm going to have some of my beer here. Again, Ska Brewery, I'm open for endorsements and getting some sponsorship here. But Lorena Mills again asked him, what's your best advice to searchers and to looking for his clues? He says, if you want to find the treasure chest, you have my book there. I'll tell you how to do it. Read the book just normally, the poem and then the rest of the book. And then go back and read the poem 6, 8, 10 times. Study every word, every line. Then after you do that, read the book again slowly with the idea of looking for clues or hints that are in the book that will help you follow the clues. You can find the chest with just the clues, but there are hints in the book that will help you with the clues. So again, he kind of says, and this is a kind of a key word to me, he says there are hints in the book that will help you follow the clues. And the reason why I pick out that particular word follow is the fact that he says, and this is my favorite line, one of my favorite lines in the book, is he has said just prior to the poem, so I wrote a poem containing 9 clues that, if followed precisely, will lead to the end of my rainbow and the treasure. And I look at that word follow, and most of us look at that word follow, and we look at it as in the literal sense of a step by step, we're going to follow the clues, consecutively one after the other. But what if follow also means in another sense of as in understood or comprehended? I mean, we all know that there's many synonyms and different words to everything, but is it followed in the literal sense of we're following the clues step by step, or is it that if the poem or if the 9 clues are followed or understood precisely, it will lead us to the treasure? And that's one of the core things that has really kind of turned me into what I deem as a poem purist. So now again, I go back to how if his key word, and I will get to some of your guys' questions. I just want to get this stuff out there and then get some of your feedback from you. Is he says consistently that the hints in the book will help you with the clues. And how does that, and I want you guys to get thinking about this, how do the clues really help? I mean, how do we know how they help? I mean, there's so much, there's no consensus on even what the 9 clues are in just the mere 166 words are in the poem, or no consensus on what we believe those subtle clues are contained within the 28,000 words found within, the thrill of the chase. So how can we know with any kind of certainty how these subtle hints actually help us? I mean, what kind of help do they do? And I want to go to, we got one more quote here, and this relates to, how the clues may help or may not help, or the subtle hints may or may not help with the clues. And it goes back to a Q&A that was posed on Mysterious Writings back in November 12th of 2015. Again, Ska Brewery. Cheers. And it was a question that was posed by somebody with the initials BW, and I don't know who that is. You could think Becky from West Virginia or somebody like that. I'm not sure. If somebody knows, please let me know. So BW asked, Forrest, you said to read the poem and read The Thrill of the Chase to help solve for the 9 clues. We all know that there are many options to choose from regarding brown, homo brown, warm water salt, and blaze hinted at in the book. My question is, in the book, do you also, in a more subtle way, tell us which is the correct answer to one or all of the above? Meaning the book, brown, homo brown, warm water salt, and the blaze. And Forrest Fenn responded, "No, I don't, madame. Sorry." Now, I mean, we can read Forrest's answers, many different ways until the cows come home. But let me give you just my interpretation, and it seems somewhat straightforward. The real question from BW was, in the book, do you also, in a more subtle way, tell us which is the correct answer to one or all of the above? And he says, no, I don't. Sorry, I don't. So if we know that the subtle hints that are in, and I keep saying subtle hints, subtle clues, hints, I mean, they're going to be, like I said, the definitions are really close, so let's just use them, as one and the same. So if he doesn't, in the book, tell us what is the correct, or hint at the correct, homo brown, warm water salt, or whatever, then how do these subtle hints, or what do they do to really help us out? That is the real question. So I'm going to pause a little bit, let you all think about that, and then I'm going to look at the chat room a little bit. Again, if you don't recall, I asked that if you have a question directly to me, that you precede it with that, I don't know which ampersand or at sign, and then with all caps flip. That way I know that you're speaking to me and not just the general public in the chat room. So I'm gonna take a couple minutes. I'm just gonna scroll through, talk some amongst yourself, and then we'll get back a little bit to the subtle hints, and we'll talk about those. So I'm just gonna take a minute, have another ska brew, dilly dilly. So this live thing is completely different than being able to do even a non-scripted, video, which I try and one shot them. What I call one shot them is just do it and don't edit them. Do them straight through, other than cut just a little bit on both ends. But this is obviously a heck of a lot different, and I give a lot of props to those people who've been doing this for a while, like Jason, Fenn Treasure Hunter, Bill Gorman, A Gypsy's Kiss, and I know there's some others that I'm probably forgetting. Odious Soul, Shannon, I know she does that. So let me scroll through here a little bit. Why must I go? I don't know if I said hi to you, but Paul Wood, hello. Iron Will, I see you there. Louis Castro, I know you post a lot. Good to see you there. Mike M. And then why must I go? At Flip. That does it. Foul language, I'm out of here. Right. I tell you, prior military and stuff, I let them fly once in a while. And you know that. I know you do. Paul Wood, bunch of. Yeah, there's that time. Why must I go? You got it. You nailed it. David Kramer, my stalker, he says, Flip, when do you believe you will know you have a 100% hint? Good question. I had one person in one of my videos, or it might actually been in one of the forums, that said, how many confirmations does it take to prove fact? And I answered, I don't think any number of coincidences will ever prove fact, because they just are that, coincidences. And when I go back to my my Yellowstone solve that I had back in 2015, and went and searched in April of 2016, man, I had tons of what I thought were subtle hints found within the book, and they confirmed what I believed was the correct area. And again, the definition of a confirmation bias is the tendency to view new evidence as confirmation of pre-existing beliefs or theories, and that's just what it was. I believe, like most people, that Madison Junction was warm water salt, and who's to say that that's incorrect? I mean, nobody's found the treasure, so I can't prove that it's wrong. I personally don't believe it is anymore. But then I took, what I perceived as the canyon down being the Firehole River. Now, most people will take Madison, from Madison Junction west towards Hebgen Lake. I didn't. I took the Firehole down, as in south, and that's just how I interpret it. And then I found things like in, the Totem Caper Cafe, where he says, his hands had deep canyons in them. I was thinking the Firehole Canyon. He talked about also in the Totem Caper Cafe about the deep potholes along Canyon Road. And I was like, oh, Canyon Road, the mud pots and all the different geysers and, the hot water to be, the steam. And my water high was the steam from the geysers, up Rabbit Creek. And I could go on and on about that. But again, I was seeing things in the book that confirmed, and there was tons of them. There was tons of stuff in history that made me believe that Hell's Half Acre right there around Muleshoe Bend, and that is another Hell's Half Acre in that area, was no place for the meek. It was all kinds, and it was, again, like I say, beautiful. And I know there's a lot of you that are probably nodding your heads. You've done the same thing, and I'm not saying any of you are wrong. I believed I was wrong. But again, I don't think any number of confirmations or coincidences or things that you find either in historical references in the book or outside the book in his interviews or whatever will ever 100% prove fact. So I hope I answered your question there, David. Moving along, Mary Green at Flip, howdy, cheers to you too. All the hints I thought were hints turned into rabbit holes. Again, and I think I've had a discussion with Why Must I Go in the Evolution of a Poem Purist over on Mysterious Writing Jenny Kyle's forum, and you can go read that. It's now locked for me letting fly a few colorful metaphors, I like to say, on someone. But you go read it, and in that, Why Must I Go on the first page had a good back and forth about rabbit holes. And the interesting thing about rabbit holes is that we learn a lot. This whole chase isn't just about finding a treasure chest. That's great. That's a great benefit. Again, it's the thrill, not the quarry. I personally, I'd love to have the treasure. I'd like to be able to say I found it. It would definitely help my family and immediate family and friends. Absolutely. But again, it's the thrill. And Why Must I Go? And I had a good discussion about how we enjoy the rabbit holes. We learn a lot from those, but when you're going down those rabbit holes, Mary, you have to realize that that you have to be aware of confirmation bias. There's no way to completely avoid it, even if you're a poem purist like myself. There's no way to completely avoid it. You can mitigate it as much as you can, but enjoy those rabbit holes. There's a lot of history, a lot of things to learn out there. Like Forrest Fenn said, there's nothing too small to know. So enjoy those rabbit holes, but just know that. In my belief, just know that when you're going down those rabbit holes, they may have no way to really confirm or give you certainty in anything. So again, there could be those rabbit holes that do. So it's good to go down them. It's fun. You may learn something, and who knows, you may find the treasure. I can't say that my way is absolutely the way to solve this as a poem purist. No way. So Mary, I hope I answered your question without rambling on. I know I do that. Moving down from Mary, we're going down. Uh-oh. Thing just skipped on me. Okay. Give me a second here. My thing moved on me. I see one from Iron, but let me get to that one. I don't want to miss somebody. If I miss anybody's, I will go back through this and try and get them here before the weekend's end. Again, I've got family, my kids. Something I didn't mention, I have a 2-year-old in the other room who's chilling out watching Monsters, Inc. So if he comes out here, guys, my priority is my family. I will take care of him. If there's an emergency, I will cut the live feed and just take care of that. So if it goes black, that's why. So please understand that. My wife is going into the nursing program, so she works nights at the hospital right now. So I don't have anybody here to really help me out. Now moving on, we've got Iron Will. Iron, good to see you. Fellow military guy, dilly to you. And I believe you're also in the oil field, were you not, Iron, or still are? Again, Ska Brewery, Three Rivers Brewery. I'm open for sponsorship if you're watching. Okay, Iron Will asked, Flip, something that confused me. Forrest replied January 2012 The chapters in my book have very subtle hints, but are not deliberately placed to aid the seeker. What are your thoughts? Great question. And I meant to read that one, and I had it on a different page, and I missed it. So let me read that for everybody. I think he talked about it, but the Q&A came from, I think it was a group of bridge players, and that's what it says here. The Q&A, like Iron says, I have it down as 2013. Maybe you're right. Maybe somebody else can correct both of us. But the question came from a group of bridge players from San Diego. Asks, we realize the clues are in the poem, but we were wondering if there isn't at least one clue in each chapter. To which Forrest responds, all of the information you need to find the treasure is in the poem. The chapters in my book have very subtle hints, but are not deliberately placed to aid the seeker. So now I look at that word deliberately. I'm a word guy, and I'm sure most of you are. But I look at that word deliberately, and I look at it, as also to mean purposely. So he says that they are not deliberately placed. He didn't purposely or deliberately go in there and place these subtle hints or subtle clues, hints, clues. Again, we're using them as the same. So what does that really mean? Well, to me, it means that he went out there and he wrote the book, and after potentially going back and reading the book, himself and editing his chapters or whatever he did, he might have realized in going back and reading those things that, oh, hey, the way I worded that or how I said that or what I said here could possibly be helpful. Again, that word help could possibly helpful to someone to figure out these clues. And to me, let me give something away to y'all guys. Again, I'm a poem purist. I don't focus a lot on trying to isolate the subtle hints. Again, and I've said this many times that I think it's nearly or next to impossible to isolate out of the 28,000 some odd words what one believes is a subtle hint without allowing their preconceived biases to believe that what they are reading or what they are seeing as a subtle hint actually is one. Now, of course, you may get lucky, but if you keep basing everything on a hunch, you're going to end up with a thin wallet. One of us may get lucky. I mean, one of us is. It's meant for one of us, whether that's this weekend or 1,000 years from now. We don't know. So again, deliberately, I think I've lost my train of thought there a little bit. I do that when I ramble. But again, deliberately place means purposely, and he didn't purposely place them. I think that he went back, Iron, and saw that those things could be helpful. That's my opinion. Doesn't mean it's right. That's just my opinion, and you asked for it, so you got it. So I'm going to move on. Iron, I hope I answered your question there. Fenn Treasure Hunter asked a question of the room. Hey, there's Rick McDonald, Illinois Ghost. Hey, brother, how are you? Good to see you. I gotta pour some more beer in here. I'm reading everything. Okay, I think I see a question from Dale Richards here. Are you guys liking this format, or am I doing everything jacked up? I definitely will take some constructive criticism. Again, I'm learning. I'm trying to do this. I've seen some things that A Gypsy Kiss does very well, and I'm trying to. I obviously don't have a producer, so here we go. Dale Richards, flip. Study the obvious hints and then figure out how and where they intersect. Okay, yeah. Forrest Fenn has said, the person who can find the treasure chest is the person who can best find where the lines cross, or something along that effect. He says that, in the chapter "My War for Me," he talks about lines intersecting in his his experiences with the thumb over Philadelphia and his experience in the clearing in Vietnam. So where those lines crossed for him, affected him drastically in his life. So not much of a question, but I get where you're coming from, Dale. Cool. Moving on along, Nathan Tupis, flip. There are about 22 locations listed in the Thrill of the Chase. Do you believe one of the locations areas has to be one of the stated locations in the book, i.e. Hebgen Lake, Madison, Yellowstone, Taos, etc.? Great question, Nathan. I've never really looked at it that way. I mean, I guess I say I should have. I didn't realize it was 22 locations. How ironic, right? There's that number 22. DeCall, where are you? I know you're in there somewhere. You'll like that. But yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely possible. he says subtle hints and clues, and a lot of people will completely rule out Yellowstone because it comes across as like a meteor strike. I personally don't. I've been to Yellowstone, and a lot of people that believe that Yellowstone is. I personally don't believe it's there, but to rule it out completely would be completely naive because none of us know for sure where it is because we haven't found it. My interpretation of the grammar in the book doesn't personally lead me there. Doesn't mean it's not there. Again, I can't prove I'm right or wrong. So, good question, Nathan. I like the way you're thinking. And that number 22, 22 beads, 22 pounds. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff we can go on that one. Moving along, I've got Shane McLaughlin. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing your name right. Shane says, Flip. Can't we just reverse engineer the info? Forrest Fenn said people mentioned correctly on Dow Neitzel's website, Warm Waters Halt. Just take that time he made the statement and pull everyone's info and process of elimination. Wow. Shane, that's a lot of work. If you've ever been on Dow Neitzel's site, and I'm assuming you have, there is just a plethora of information. And, I give Dow Neitzel a hard time because me personally, I think Dow Neitzel's website is very hard to navigate. It's very difficult to do anything, and it's really tailored towards somebody that can really take the time and research there because there's not really not a whole lot of organization. A lot of conversations can get misrepresented or misunderstood because the way it flows. And I think Brian, man of the barn said it best. It's like a home of baloney. I like to call it. That's not meant to be derogatory on Dow. It's just a joke. Hopefully, he doesn't take it personally. But yeah, that would be a lot of work. I've spent a lot of time on Dow Neitzel's site over the last few years researching and going. There's a lot of great information in there, but it takes a lot of time to research stuff in there. So yeah, I mean, you could plot just about every point on there. A lot of people have talked about that. I think that, me personally, I'd rather focus on the mere 166 words in the poem and understanding what those things mean. If you choose to want to do that kind of work, more power to you. Again, and that may be what it takes. So good luck, Shane. Go for it. Moving along, and I'm gonna. We're at 32 minutes here. I'm having fun. I want to keep this to an hour. Again, I've got to do the weekend update tonight. That takes a little bit of time. Okay, I've got Fenn Treasure Hunter. Looks here. Hope I didn't miss anybody. That asks. That's Jason. If anybody doesn't know, he's got a good YouTube channel. You might want to go check him out. Flip. It's definitely easier being on the side of the camera. Thank you for putting on a live chat. Sure, you're welcome. Yeah, this is definitely different. It's interesting getting some live feedback. I like that. And being able to answer some questions. And hopefully I'll be able to go back through here and watch some of the chat amongst you guys and learn something as well. But I appreciate what you do, Jason. And for those of you who don't know, I did, Jason and I talked tonight. I called him first because I didn't want to potentially interrupt any kind of live feed that he might be doing. I didn't want to just, kind of step over each other, in a sense. So everybody, Three Rivers Brewery, Ska, it's good. No, I'm going to keep doing that. I love their beer. Okay, moving on along. There's the call. Oh, God, I did that bounce again. How the heck? I feel sorry for Shelly now when she's trying to do this. There's one from Eugene. I'll come down to that. There's one from... Uh-oh. I'm really lost now. Holy cow, you guys got a lot of stuff. Oh, there's Dale. Yep. Okay. Okay, there was his. Sorry, guys. I'm getting used to this. I need a producer. I'm going to hire my 18-year-old daughter to be my producer. Right. I can't pay her in beer, obviously. Let's see here. All right. From Iron. Flip. Army ammunition plant worker. Okay. Well, that makes sense. Great. Yeah, I told Jason on his live feed I was a 96 Bravo 30 for 14 years in the military. 30 means I was a staff sergeant. I was actually on the promotable list before I got out to pin on my second rocker. 96 Bravo, for those of you who don't know, that is a intelligence analyst. And basically my job was, I was the center hub of all the intelligence community, not all of the intelligence community, but of the intelligence community where I had signals intelligence, human intelligence, imagery intelligence, all the different disciplines of intelligence feeding me intelligence information, and then it was my job to analyze that information and put together what I like to call the bigger picture of what was going on the battlefield, to then brief the commander on the enemy situation, and then act as the enemy to then tell that friendly commander what I think that the enemy would do or how I would react as the enemy. That's what I did in 2 seconds. So anyways, Iron, great. That's good to know what you do. Moving down. Okay, from Why Must I Go? Technically, he said the chapters are not deliberately placed. The hints were because he said he put them there. Yeah, I mean, maybe I could read it that way. There we go. Where he said subtle hints but are not. The chapters in my book have very subtle hints but are not deliberately placed. Yeah, I guess Why Must I Go? I guess you're right. We could argue both sides of the fact, whether he's saying chapters or if he's referring to the hints. We're both grammar guys, so I'd have to go back and look at it a little bit more. But you might be right. I might be right. We don't know. But either way, yeah, it's neither of them are deliberately placed. Okay, going back and forth, moving down. Okay, we've got one here from Eugene Tells, which is Gay Delkin on the forums. Eugene, good to see you. Again, I have an open invitation to you. If you're ever up here, we'll go down to Three Rivers. Three Rivers. We can't have Ska Brew there, but we can have some Three Rivers. Every time I drink one of those, I get $1 from them, right? Okay, Eugene says, Flip, do you think the treasure chest will be revealed this year by his gut feeling comment? Eugene, I'm not sure if you watched A Gypsy's Kiss, where, Toby put us all on the spot, so I just had to say, I think my gut feeling is I'm going to find it. Isn't that everybody's gut feeling, that everybody wants to find it this year? Do you think the chest will be revealed this year by his gut feeling comment? What do you mean revealed? I mean, I'm assuming you're saying that, do I think that the treasure chest will be found this year? Again, what I said about his gut feeling is a gut feeling, if you look up the definition, again, I'm a definition Nazi, I guess you could call it, but a gut feeling is based on intuition or instinct. It's not really based on any kind of fact. And again, we are talking about the architect of this poem, so of course, he's probably the most avid reader of all the forums, but he also, is getting emails from who knows how many people, and I'm sure he's got those that he thinks are close and those that he thinks that are the 7%ers and, are not even in the ballpark and are way out of there. And that would be fun to be able to look at his computer and be able to know that, it'd be a fly on the wall, on his desk. But, so we are talking about the gut feeling of the man who created this thing. So the way I look at that is that, he's not even certain, because a gut instinct is not based on fact. So he's not even certain because no one really has given him, at least in my opinion, based on what he's saying, that no one's given him a correct solve. That meaning a solve that's going to get them within several steps of the treasure. And I like to think of that several steps as in that 12 feet. It's highly unlikely that anyone's going to get within 12 feet of it and find it. And, the big argument, then gets into, how is it really, hidden? But that gut feeling, Eugene, could really be based on a lot of people possibly zeroing in on a correct solve, or excuse me, not a correct solve, but a good general solve, and that being that they're in the correct general area, and that whether that be one of the 4 states, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, or New Mexico, or whether that be a very specific region like Yellowstone, or like the Valdez Caldera, or like I could name all kinds. You guys could probably name them quicker than I can. So I think that gut feeling is really based on, a lot of searchers possibly zeroing in on the correct area. And that's my opinion. I mean, we all have them, but that's just how I think. So, Eugene, I hope I answered your question there. Moving along. And getting towards the bottom here. From David Kramer, my stalker. Flip, what do you think is the best hint you have found in the book? And he puts it books in parentheses. David, I think I said it earlier. I don't want to rehash, my evolution of a poem purist, because I've got a video on it. I didn't start out as a poem purist. I started out like most most everybody, but I really became a poem purist. So for me, as a poem purist, what I think is the best hint in the book for me is that line that precedes the poem. So I wrote a poem containing 9 clues that, if followed precisely, will lead to the end of my rainbow and the treasure. And I like it so much because of that silly colon just prior to the poem, where and why must I go? Just as much as me understands this, because we're grammar guys, but we understand the purpose of a colon. A colon is used to list an item or a series of items. And what items are we talking about? But what he says in that sentence, which is, a poem containing 9 clues. And they're just, I don't know whether it's coincidence. I mean, again, it could be confirmation bias. I will admit to that. I don't believe it is, but I have to admit to that fact that it can be. But there is 9 sentences in that poem. And, to me, those are the 9 clues. It seems to be the obvious. Doesn't make it right. It just seems to be the most obvious answer. Three Rivers, Scott. So to me, that is the biggest hint to me, and the fact that he puts that colon. He could have simply said, "Hey, I wrote a poem that leads to my treasure," right? I mean, he could have just said that, but he didn't. He said, "So I wrote a poem containing 9 clues that, if followed precisely, will lead into my rainbow and the treasure." And one thing that, and I know DeCall, I know he's in your summer, but he'll like this, is that he says the end of his rainbow. And it makes me think, if there's an end of the rainbow, shouldn't there always be a beginning of the rainbow? And, it could be like those double omegas. And I'm going to get DeCall all fired up here, I know that. But, you've got two omegas. You possibly could be the beginning of the rainbow and the end of the rainbow. So, again, where are we all looking for, but potentially the starting point? Forrest Fenn tells us, if you don't have a starting point, you don't have anything. If you don't know where warm waters halt, you don't have anything. So it could be the starting point. Here's your starting point. And like I said in my my video about is the poem a map to the treasure? We've got to have our starting point where the ship lands on the island, so to speak, and then we've got to have our ending point, which is that X on the map. So we've got our beginning and our ending, our first omega, our double omega, our beginning of our rainbow, our end of our rainbow. I don't know. It's just the things that go through my mind. Yes, I'm a poem purist. My foundation is the poem, but it doesn't mean I don't pay attention to those things. Again, I didn't start out as a poem purist. I began like everybody else, so I cannot take those things out of my mind and just forget them. They're still there, but I use them as what I like to call ballast or checks and balances in the system, so to speak. So, boy, I went on a ramble there. Sorry, David. We will move on. David, I hope I answered your question. Getting, looks like towards the bottom here. Mike M. Moving on to Mike M. Mike M says, at Flip, who just said someone mentioned that Forrest Fenn said Warm Waters Halt was identified on Dow's. Can they cite the specific location of Forrest Fenn's quote about that? That interests me if he did say that. Mike, I don't know if we misinterpreted what that individual said about that, but I don't think, personally, I don't believe Forrest Fenn has ever confirmed anybody's where warm waters halt. I think the only thing he has said is that some have identified the first few clues, but then went on past the other 7. But it's obviously easy to infer that those people had correctly identified the correct warm waters halt, but they obviously didn't know it, because if they would have known it, I would imagine those people would never have left that area if they would have known it, right? Three Rivers, Scott. Dilly, moving on. So, Mike, I can't answer that question. I don't believe that Forrest has ever confirmed what warm waters halt is, or where it is, or whatever. Uh-oh, it skipped again on me, guys. I don't know what it's doing here. Okay, moving along. Again, Fenn Treasure Hunter, Jason. Flip, what is your greatest lesson learned from unsuccessful boots on the ground? Great question. First of all, I don't think any trip it is unsuccessful. And let me qualify that. Every trip that I go out there, and I'm sure that most of you will agree with this, is a learning experience. None of us have failed. Those that, and I hate the word fail, but those of us that give up and walk away from the chase, I hate to say failed, but I say that they have given up and they've moved on. And I don't consider any trip that I've gone out there a failed or unsuccessful trip. I believe that every time I go out there and I do a boots on the ground, or any of us that go and do boots on the ground, we learn something. We learn, about ourselves and our physical condition. We learn about a lot about geography. We learn about how Google Earth is not a great representation of what it's really like to be out there. We learn a lot of things. So I hate to call it unsuccessful. But what have I learned most about boots on the ground? What I think I learned the most about my boots on the ground trip is that it's a big world out there, guys. And I've traveled all around this world, in the military and going to places that I didn't really want to be, but I was told to go there. But it's really a big environment. You get out there and you think that, you're going to walk right to the treasure chest. And, you get out there and Jason, you said it well too. You want to look under every little hole and your mind just wanders on you and you get that. I love that feeling that when I get to my location, I get that build up excitement that, man, could this be the one time that I'm going to pull that chest out of the ground? And we all get that. Our heart races, we get excited, everything. I mean, it's not just the altitude, it's the excitement of the thrill of the chase. And then we realize, like, oh crap, I got to look under every rock, I got to kick over every log, I got to do all this. It's overwhelming. So unsuccessful, I get back and it's, on that night after the hunt or after a drive home from a hunt or whatever, it's like, man, did I look under every rock? Did I look under everything? So I learn a lot every time I'm out there. There's a tendency, by a few in the search to kind of, downplay or label those that have multiple searches. And I personally just don't see it that way. Again, I talk about, the Edison and the Tesla, comparisons, that if old Edison would have just tried once a year to make the incandescent light bulb, I mean, how many years would it have taken him? And that's no dig on some people. I understand that, some people don't live within the Rocky Mountains or aren't fortunate enough, and I'd love to live in some other exotic place. I love where I live. It's beautiful. I'd love to live next to a beach too. But this is where I live, and I'm fortunate to live where I am and being close. So geography has a lot to do with people and their, making smart economical decisions, and we're all different about how we search and when we search. So, it doesn't matter if you, again, like I said, in the end of this, when this is found, we're not going to be talking about how many times, somebody searched or not. We're going to be talking about how beautiful it was when that ball sailed out of the ballpark, if you know what I mean. So, Jason, I hope I answered your question there in less than 10,000 words. Moving along here. Boy, we're going on and on. Dale Richards, flip. Maybe Warm Waters Halt is the edge of the Burlington Formation, the Missouri Plateau. Dale, I've got to be honest, I'm not sure what the Burlington Formation of the Missouri Plateau is. You got me on that one. I'll have to do some research on it and get back to you. I just don't know what that is. Sorry, buddy. But yeah, anything's possible. It could be. I'll research that and look into it. Shane again, flip. Maybe we can trade homes for a week. I'm in Florida and about 20 minutes to the beach. Are you in Colorado? No, Shane. I live in a town called Farmington, New Mexico. It's in the Four Corners area. I'm about 30 minutes from the southern Colorado border. Yeah, Florida is beautiful. I mean, there's a lot of things to see out there. Scott, Three Rivers. I'd like to take my kids, here in a few years to Disney World. So maybe I'll take you up on that. Okay. Iron again's asking a question. As a PP, I don't mean to promote, as a poem purist, okay, and I don't mean to promote nighttime searching. Do you think Terry Scant and then Bray, page 41, and Cold could refer to the final clue of waiting at night for the chest to be revealed? Interesting, Iron. I know I've watched or I've read a lot of your talk on that in the past, and I know you've caught some flack for that. Anything is possible. I have a different interpretation of Terry Scant probably than you do. Brave, Well, let's talk about that for a minute, because in the chapter Surviving Myself, Forrest Fenn does say, and I'll open it up. I can't remember what page it's on, but I know it's in the beginning. And I could probably honestly read this verbatim and go to your book and let's see if I could. And I'll read this for everybody in there so we understand what iron is talking about. But this is at the end of Surviving Myself chapter, where, if you don't recall, Forrest Fenn talks about at night, him and his brother Skippy would sit by the stove at night, and when the clock struck 8 o'clock, Marvin gave them just a few minutes, reprieve, and if they didn't move within a couple seconds, they both got whippings. And so this is kind of how that is. But Forrest would sometimes wait to see what Skippy did, and then he would get his whipping after if Skippy didn't move. So this gives you a little context of what's going on here. So I'll read this last paragraph verbatim. Sometimes, when it wasn't too cold, I'd get even with my father for switching me by jumping out of the window by my bed and walking down to the cemetery, which was just a block north of our home, or our house. It took guts to go in there when it was dark with no moon. I still remember the sense of accomplishment I felt when I sat on some dead guy's grave marker. I wasn't even afraid. A kid really has time to think in a graveyard. And I'll hold this up so people can kind of see the picture, right? So I'm glad you brought that up, Iron, because he doesn't necessarily use the word brave. He kind of uses the word guts, and somewhat those things are, where's Roll Tide when I need him? But those things are somewhat synonymous with each other, are they not? Three Rivers, Ska. I probably wasted 10 minutes drinking beer, haven't I? And I'm getting low. That means I've got to shut down the show here pretty soon. But yeah, I mean, I get where you're coming from, Iron. He said it took guts to go in there when it was dark with no moon. And I like the fact that he says no moon, because when you think about it, no moon means new moon, meaning there's no moon at all. And then if you look at the epilogue in the chapter, you've got the waning moon at the end there. So it's kind of like new moon as he's a child, and then a waning moon as he's older. So it's kind of like him in his waning years, so to speak. And I know I'm getting off topic from your question, Iron, but I wanted to bring that up. Yeah, I like that. I can see where you're going with that. I personally don't necessarily agree with that. It doesn't mean it's wrong. But I can understand probably where you're going with that. That it took guts to go in there, and he went alone in there when it was dark with no moon. So yeah, there could be some possibility to that, and I think it's an interesting theory to go down, and I look forward to maybe you putting a post over there on Hint of Riches and talk a little bit more about that. I think that's a good place to avoid some of the drama that has ensued in the past, Iron. So bring that back up. I'll chat with you on it over there at Thor, and we'll talk about it. So I'm going to move on, Iron. I hope I answered your question there a little bit. Move along. Well, that looks like the end of the chat there. Looks like we're all caught up. So again, guys, me personally as a poem purist, again, I said I haven't started out as a poem purist, and I evolved into one. I started out most like everybody else, getting a hold of that poem and making some what I call initial naive assumptions of what I thought keywords and phrases meant, and then armed with those, I jumped on the forums, I jumped in the book, I jumped on the interweb and found a plethora of confirmations of those naive assumptions, and I took several trips in New Mexico and in southern Colorado and way up in Wyoming. One of my favorite areas that I really, really loved was up along the Chief Joseph, bypass up there near the Beartooth Mountains, just north of Cody, Wyoming. A beautiful area along Sunshine Creek. If you've never been up there, it is an amazing area. I remember being in a thunderstorm there, and man, that thunder just rolling through there, and it was just amazing. I felt like Chief Joseph was welcoming me to that area. It's just an amazing area. If you're ever up there, I definitely highly recommend you go hiking up there. It's beautiful, and it was one of my favorite areas. I've got several pictures from that area. No treasure. I'm not saying it's not there, but beautiful area. Well, I've rambled on. Again, there's no doubt, folks, and I want to wrap this up here because we're getting close, but there's no doubt that there are subtle hints contained within the book. Subtle hints, subtle clues. I'm not debating at all that those things don't exist. Me personally, I feel that it's next to impossible to isolate what those subtle hints are without allowing your preconceived biases to make you believe that those things actually are. And to me, it seems much easier to block. It's not easier. By no means is it easy. And why must I go? And several of you that are probably researching grammar will probably say that, yeah, that, man, it's difficult with just the poem. And some want to believe that I'm tying a hand behind my back because I don't, focus on the hints. And that's my choice. And those people may be right. I could be completely hamstringing myself. But they know that this is my thrill of the chase. This is the way I look at things. So I'm not debating that those subtle hints don't exist, guys. They're absolutely there. Again, like I said, I believe that one just prior to the poem is one. I can't prove it, but it's just how I believe. I'm looking forward to reading again, going back through here and reading your comments. I'm going to go one last time through here and see if there was any extra comments that I missed tonight. But I'm going to run through them one last time here real quick, and we'll go through that. You guys talk amongst yourself. And what I'll probably do is just leave the live chat up for a few minutes for you guys to wrap things up and go over that. But I am going through here again. Guys, I'm low. Three Rivers, Scow. It's great beer, by the way. True Blonde Ale. Can you see that? Going back and reading this. I tell you, you guys that do these live chats, Bill Gorman, if you're there, I haven't seen you tonight. Ben Treasure Hunter, Odious Soul, Gypsy's Kiss. I've got a lot of respect for what you guys do. This is definitely a different. I like it. It's kind of fun chatting with you guys. Okay, Digital Coin Hunt looks like here. Wait, no, Mike M. Let me hit with you first, or not? Yeah, because there's irons. Then we got Mike's. At Flip, you're looking in Yellowstone area. Do you believe Too Far to Walk is 10 miles as stated in the preface to the book? What's your thoughts on Homer Brown in general? One, I'm not going to talk about Homer Brown. I don't. If you haven't watched my my little rant on why I won't talk about my clues, you'll understand why. One, again, I don't want to mislead people in what I believe the clues are. I'm not looking in Yellowstone personally. Not to say that the treasure is not there. I've been to Yellowstone. It's beautiful. I love it. I would love to go back and take my children there. I personally don't believe it's in a national park, and Yellowstone is one of them. Doesn't mean it doesn't start in Yellowstone. Just as the fact that Warm Waters Halt may start outside of the 4 states. So you got to think about that. Do you believe Too Far to Walk is 10 miles as stated in the preface of the book? Great question. I talked about in my last video that Too Far to Walk really is a metaphor. And while the poem, as a poem purist, I believe should be literal and straightforward, that is something that is a metaphor. Because, Mike, what may be too far to walk for you might be 25 miles. What is for me is, more than 5 miles away from Three Rivers Brewery, So it's all relative, and there's no way that we can set any kind of measurable distance that is equal to each and every one of us. It's different for all of us. It's different for Forrest Fenn at his age when he hid the treasure. It's different from me and you. So I think maybe he might have, in the preface of the book, tried to clarify that a little bit. So I do kind of like the idea of it being 10 miles or about 10 miles. But it also could be a metaphor for something else. I don't have the treasure chest yet. I don't know. So great question, Mike. Again, I'm sorry I won't talk about my thoughts on Homer Brown in general. Obviously, it being capitalized is something to think about for sure. So hopefully I answered your question, Mike. I'm sorry if you think I'm avoiding. There's reasons for that. So Digital Coin Hunt. Flip, how are the fires affecting the New Mexico and Colorado search zones? Great question. I was gonna touch on that in the weekend update a little bit, but yeah, as Toby has mentioned, the Santa Fe National Forest has been closed, unfortunately, and just this week, I have a lot of customers, and my customers in the Durango, Colorado area, and just about 10 miles north of Colorado, in an area called Trimble. we had a pretty big fire. I haven't checked on if it's been contained yet, but if you watch my video, confirmation bias, hints and clues, oh my, that actual video was taken in the exact area that's under fire right now, or has a fire in it. So it's a beautiful area. It's right around Falls Creek. I've taken my kids hiking there many times. I'm very sad to see that place catch fire right now, but it's a circle of life. It's there's a renewing factor to that. So flip digital coin hunt. Hopefully, I answered your question there. Again, one more from Jason here. Flip, what similarities have you seen in all the books? Like 2 stories about gravestones, anything you have noticed? Man, that's a great question, Jason. I haven't. I've read The Thrill of the Chase, or excuse me, Too Far to Walk, but only a couple of times since I've had it. Once upon a while, I've really just kind of skimmed through and noticed some differences. Excuse me, in some of the stories, but I haven't really personally done much comparison to them. Again, as a poem purist, I don't put a whole lot of faith in that, and I don't put a whole lot of effort in that. I believe my effort is more tailored to just focusing on 166 words in the poem. Again, could I be hamstringing myself? Sure, absolutely, I could be. But great question. I'd love to see you do a video on that. I think Shannon's, with Odious Soul has done some good videos on that. If you haven't seen some of hers, go check hers out. They're good too. Moving along, Jason, I hope I answered your question. Iron, and guys, I'm going to wrap this up. We're at 9:01. Iron, Flip, it's part of my thing with I'm going to write it up tonight. Okay, cool. I pay attention to He's got some interesting thoughts, on the 109:43. I personally, my opinion, it's a lot of, you're seeing what you want to see, but I like the fact that the guy puts a lot of time in it and throws everybody off. Stick with what you know and go with it. Don't listen to anybody else. I like that. Go for it. Iron, one more time here. Do you know, I don't want to get off topic, but you don't deserve the 3 dislikes. You've been nothing but respectful and insightful tonight. I'm sure I probably have deserved some of the dislikes I've gotten. I've been pretty harsh on some people. I've tried mending those fences in the past. Maybe I've done a poor job of doing that. I know I've been probably disrespectful to a couple people. Why must I go being one of them? We've had our differences. We've mended those fences and moved on, and we've become what I would probably say are probably friends. But it is what it is. This is a treasure hunt for millions of dollars, and you're going to have people that don't get along. I would like to think that when this thing is all said and done, I can sit down with people that I've disagreed with and have a beer, and I'd like to think that whether that'll happen or not in our lifetime or not or whatever, who knows. But yeah, it's okay. It doesn't bug me. What I'm more concerned about is not the people that dislike. I'm more concerned about the people that are here tonight that are enjoying this show and having a good time. So, and you guys, I greatly appreciate. Okay, hopefully I answered your question there, Iron. Dale Richards, Flip, maybe Too Far to Walk is just where Finn wants to go and explore, but does not have enough time for in his life. Yeah, sure. What did he say in the Moby Dickens, Dale? He said, that line is kind of a metaphor for his entire life. I mean, I don't know what that really means. It's kind of like that place is special just to him. It's special to me. We hem and haw about what that means. We like to think we know what it means, but we really don't. But yeah, again, like he said, he wishes he could go back and go along those waters from wherever it was down to Baker's Hole. Those 10 miles. But for him now, it's just too far to walk. He's just not capable of doing it anymore. So yeah, I mean, he reminisces about those things, and we all have things in our life that we reminisce about. I just turned 48 here Thursday, and I like to think I could still go out and run a 10K in under 25. I know I can't right now, but just because I'm getting older, there's a lot of things I'd like to be able to do I can't do anymore. Somebody say after party. Did I see that? David, yeah, somebody needs to do an after party. Jason Fenn Treasure Hunter. Didn't I talk to you about that? You need to do an after party after this so I can watch yours while I'm getting ready for the weekend update. Okay, Michelle and I talked about. Oh, see, there it is right there. Man. Scott Brewery, Three Rivers. Now it's all gone. So that means I got to wrap this up. It looks like that's it. I'm caught up. So, guys, again, my whole point was to really talk about my opinion what the subtle hints are, and not to say that they don't exist. We all know they exist. But again, something to leave yourself with. How do the subtle hints really help us? Can we clearly define, or with any kind of level of certainty, how they actually help and where they are? I mean, if out of the 28,000 words, within this book, how can we, with any level of certainty, identify what those subtle hints are, let alone, how they help us? I mean, what does that really mean? So something just to leave you all with. It's more of like a rhetorical and kind of get you thinking. And, when I do post this, I'd love to see some of your comments, and we can continue this discussion on the forums if you like. And guys, it's been fun. I do plan on, just after getting out of this, start working on the weekend update. Don't expect it to come out here for a couple hours or better, but I'll get that put together. I got what I want to talk about, and give a little short opinion piece on it as well. Again, with my weekend update, the first couple I did, I was kind of trying to joke around and I hate to call it like a Saturday Night Live thing, but provide some jokes and opinions along the way. And I thought maybe that wasn't the best way to do it. Some people go to Fox News, some people go to CNN, and it's always somewhat biased. So I'm trying to give just a recap of what happened. And at the end, I'll try and do an opinion piece, because I think people just want the facts. They don't want everybody's opinion. We get enough of that in the forums and some of these videos. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed tonight. It's been fun for me. This is something new. I'll try and put it on some kind of regular schedule. Again, I got little kids. My wife works at nights on the weekends, so it's variable whether I can get it done or not. It's been great talking with you guys tonight. I look forward to going back through the chats here and seeing what was going on. Got a lot of work to do tonight, and maybe Jason will do a live show after this. I look forward to listening to that while it's going on, guys. But good talking with y'all. We'll catch you all in the forums, and we will catch you all on the flip side. Now I got to figure out how to shut this thing off. Help. Bye, guys.